Okay, let's get started. So the last time through, we built a simple library or a simple way to generate random rolls and make them into stats for a role-playing game. So what we're going to do today is convert those into a library called random roll. Now I've already gone ahead and created a directory and I ran go mod init and I gave it the name of the GitHub repo where I'm going to place this. Um, when I ran, in fact, let's do that again. So make dir random roll, and I'm going to change into that directory, and I am going to go ahead and go mod init, and Dark Ink is my account over on GitHub, and we're going to call this random roll. Okay. So I can go ahead and open up Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to go ahead and sidecar, get going, random roll. Okay. All right. So this time we're going to make a file called randomroll.go. And so far we've been making the package main, but instead today we're going to make the package random roll. Awesome. Okay. So, excuse me. We're going to start by taking the function that we wrote and I'm just going to go ahead and open up another recents. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to open up another window here. And we're going to go ahead and take these elements and we're going to take them over to our new directory. Okay. So that is mathrand. Thank you. Now, the one thing I will say is I've been using mathrand, and that's fine for this purpose. But if you're doing any kind of randomization that requires it's related to security, you don't want to use this package. This is a pseudo-random number generator, which means it basically generates a number that's not really random. It's really looks random to us, but it's not really technically random. There's another random function called cryptorandom, which will generate a much better random number. But for the purposes of rolling dice for an RPG, this is probably good. Let's start talking about these functions. Now, if I were to publish this on the internet, so the way I would publish it is basically by putting it up in my GitHub repo. For example, here's another one I have. So here, see, that's not. Anyway, By putting it up in a GitHub repo, I make it accessible to people all over the world. But in order for that function to be available to them when they access my library, I need to make the function uppercase. The name should start with an uppercase character. Go takes anything that starts with a lowercase character and assumes that it's private, meaning that someone using my package would not be able to access that function directly. So we're going to go ahead and rename this. We're going to go ahead and rename this as random dice roll. And because we're now making it part of a package that we're going to expose, we are going to add a comment. And the comment has a special form. We're going to use the name that we're exposing, use that as the first word of the comment. Rolls. So this rolls a random. So this produces a random value between 1 and the number of faces. Likewise, we're going to want to export. So now that we've changed the name here, we need to change it everywhere we use it. So random dice roll. So we are going to call this D6. Rolls a random 6-sided die. And generally we'll want some other ones in here too. So let's complete the set. Func D4. Return random dice roll 4. D4 rolls 4-sided. And let's do D12. I forgot to put my parentheses. Let's see, D8. Okay, and so we can keep going on. We can add a D10, a D20. So let's look at this name. So one of the tough things when you're writing a library is giving stuff a good name. This is surprisingly difficult. In this case, we are going to call this roll a stat. So given a number of dice, we're going to roll, and again we have to rename our D6 here, up to that number of D6 to roll a stat, and we'll tell people what we mean by, or what this function will do by giving it a comment that they can look at. Rolls a stat for a player character. And let's do this. We want to expose sum. Sum roll returns the sum, the first 3 dice in a roll. All right, we'll take out our comment here, which describes our algorithm, and we'll say sort roll. Sorts the returned dice rolls from high to low. Okay. All right, so this isn't bad. So someone using our library would call roll a stat, then sort roll, then sum roll. And if we think about it for a second, what's our user going to do? Um, they might forget to sort the roll before calling sum roll. And we pretty much intend for them to sort the roll before summing the roll. So when we do roll a stat, maybe, and this is just an idea, maybe they shouldn't have to call those functions separately. Maybe we should go ahead and call those functions for them, and we should have a different kind of we should probably have a different kind of function here. We should probably have something that returns just the final sum. And let's call this roll. And in here, we will go ahead and we will sort roll, and we will return the sum roll, right? Okay. So this way, when they call roll a stat with a given number of dice, they just get back the stat. We don't have to worry about whether or not they call it sort roll and sum roll. And if we look at sort roll and sum roll, we might say, wait a minute. Thinking about this for a second, maybe the user shouldn't be worried about these functions. Maybe we should do these when they're necessary. So for example, in cases where we're rolling, you know, I'm trying to think of a good case, but maybe we've got to roll a group of D4 and we need to take the top two or whatever. Long story short, we probably don't want players using these functions directly. Or, sorry, not players, library users to call these directly. So we go ahead and make them lowercase because really they are things we need inside our library, but really don't really need to be used by the rest of the world. So the rest of the world sees this function and sees these other functions. But if you play these role-playing games, one of the things you realize is you don't roll just any random number of faces on a die. You roll a d6, a d4, a d12, d8. Let's go ahead and do d10, and d20. Okay. And give these give these useful comments. A random sided die. All right. Well, getting back to this, we've got a d6, a d4, a d12, d8, d10, and d20. There's no d17. So the argument for keeping this as a publicly accessible function is kind of slim, right? We don't want to confuse users. We don't want them to try to figure out, wait, do I need to do a D4 or should I do random dice roll with 4? So let's go ahead and make it internal. And actually, before I do that, let me show you what we can do. We can, I think we can do refactor. And then when we do rename, nope, they don't have it. So some tools have the ability to go through and rename all the instances of a called function. So in order to be able to do that, they have to understand that they have to understand a little bit about the fact that calling a function. Okay. So now let's think about our library. So a user of this library will be able to call, D6, D4, D12, D8, D10, D20, roll a stat with a given number of dice, and roll a stat rolls a statistic for a player character. Okay, understood. So what the person will get is, what the user of our library will get is something that I think is easy to understand, right? I think they can understand these. I think they can understand this. We don't have to worry about their failing to call sum roll or sort roll. We don't have to worry about if the user is trying to decide between calling this function or that. So I think we have what users of our library want: the ability to roll random dice, and in the case of statistics, roll a statistic. There may be other things like roll with luck that we might implement later. So if you're used to playing Dungeons and Dragons, in some cases, if you roll a 1, you get to re-roll, or in some cases, you get to roll with advantage. So there may be other roles we want to do in the future, but for now, this I think presents a user of our library a good set of functionality that they can reuse. Okay, so next we got to get this on GitHub. So I'm going to go ahead and git init. And if I do a git status, I have 2 files. And I can say, okay, go and git add go.mod and random roll. And I can commit these changes. I can say well, actually, let me do it from inside Visual Studio. So all this git functionality here is available in Visual Studio. So we can give it a commit message. We could say initial commit. Oops. Okay, let's go ahead and do what it's saying to do. Git config. You don't want to make it global. Okay, now let's go ahead and commit it. Initial commit. and we want to publish it to a public repository. Okay. Now we have our random roll library, and it's up on GitHub. So let's go check it out on GitHub. There it is, random roll. Okay, so it's up on GitHub. Now let's go ahead and create a new library, new project. Let's call this Get Going 04. We're going to get or go mod init github.com darkinkcode get going before. Okay. Now we're going to bring in our dice rolling module or package. Go get github.com darkink random roll. All right. Oops. I haven't set that up yet, but you can set Visual Studio Code up to open Okay, so let's create get going 04.go. And this is going to be a main package and func main. All right. So inside this package, we are going to call random roll a stat. And we're going to use 4 6-sided dice for our stats, right? Strength, dexterity, constitution, let's see, we got wisdom or intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Okay, so now let's go ahead and give it some space. Save it so we get, all I did was save it there. So I'm going to go ahead and use the power of copy and paste. Dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. And we'll just copy and paste these. All right, if we run this, so if we open up a terminal, go run, there, we've got a little character generator. Now, we'll notice that we get the same results each time, so that's why I said it's a pseudo-random number generator. It's not a real random number generator. So we need to initialize it, so we will do rand, and we want to seed it. It's called seeding the rand. And we will seed it with the current time in milliseconds. So if we do run it now, we'll see we get different stats, right? Let's see if we can get an 18. A natural 18. Oh, there we are. Oh, okay. All right. Anyway, all right. So that takes us to the point where we've taken, our code from before and made it reusable. So let's take a quick look at our code up on GitHub that we've published to GitHub. And we see that it is there up on GitHub. And right now, anyone in the world can go get this package and use it. So that is one of the things that makes Go so nice, is the package management that allows us to quickly and easily do that. So that is pretty much it for today. I think the next time through, what we'll do is, building on this, we'll go ahead and start talking about structs. And we had slices. So a slice is a list of things. A struct is a way of building up data where each member has a name and a type. So unlike a list, which you index by position, you know, the first index, second index, etc., or in our case 0, 1, 2, 3, use it by the name. So type character struct, and a character will have a name, be a string, and attributes like strength, which will be an int, and so forth. And we'll use that, we'll create functions which will use that to allow us to, instead of just dealing with individual values like this, think about abstractions like characters and what characters can do, and generating characters. But one of the things that's going to make it much easier is having taken our previous code and made it reusable by putting it up in GitHub as a package. And then we just go ahead and go get that package, and Go adds it to our list of dependencies. Okay, well that's it for today, pretty much. And I will see you next Tuesday.